Okay, thanks for joining us today. We're on live with our destination series. This week, we're going to talk about Everest Base Camp in Nepal. Over the past couple weeks, we've been doing this every Saturday, and we started out with our trip calendar. We have done Patagonia. We did Kilimanjaro. Then we did Southern Utah last week. Each one of those videos goes out on our YouTube channel on Saturday. So Utah went out this morning on YouTube, and this video will go out next week on our YouTube channel for Everest Base Camp. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I see, Sue, that you're on. So thanks for joining us.
Hi, Dean.
Let's see here. Can you see my screen? I hope you can see my screen. Okay, today we're going to talk about Mount Everest Base Camp and our trek over there in Nepal. And many of our groups, of course, Mount Everest is one of the most notable mountains in the world. It's the highest point on the planet, 29,035 feet. And we do the trek into base camp through the Khumbu Valley in Nepal. It's got a long history. I've got a couple pictures here. Upper right is Eric Shipton, who first kind of pioneered the idea of going in through Nepal. Lower left, George Mallory. Prior to 1950, when they opened the borders, they were trying to climb Mount Everest from the north side. And the first successful summit came from Ed Hillary and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa in 1953 on the south side, which is the way that we go into the base camp. And it's got a long history. I've got a bit of history there myself, having spent a lot of time since I was in my mid-20s over in Nepal, climbing mountains like Island Peak, Amadablam, Lobuche, and I've had the opportunity to summit Mount Everest in 2005. And historically, with the business, 14 years ago, our first trek, our first worldwide trekking trip was the trek to Mount Everest Base Camp. So each week, what I try to do is bring in a special guest, and I'm really happy to have Sue Kirkpatrick here with us today. Hi, Sue.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to give a little bit of my history of Sue, and then Sue, as we go through the presentation, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can just chime in as you want to, or if you have something, let me know. And I like your perspective for our listeners and our guests from your perspective.
Okay.
Sue is from Indiana. It's pretty flat in Indiana, right?
Oh, just a little bit flat.
And we met after Sue had climbed Kilimanjaro. She was referred to us for wanting to go to Mount Everest Base Camp, and she was referred to us to go to Everest Base Camp. I think that was your first trip with Worldwide Trekking.
Yes, it was.
And then if you look at the pictures I put up, I put some of them up. Sue then came to Machu Picchu with us in Peru, and lower left in Patagonia, upper left in Patagonia on a horse. I know that you've trekked to the Alps with us on the Tour de Mont Blanc. I didn't have a picture of that that I found easily, and it didn't fit too nice in the configuration here. And then after Peru, I think it was when we were in Peru, you decided to come back and climb Everest a second time.
Yeah, actually, it was my daughter wanted to go, and I said, okay, I'll go too. Why not?
So yeah, so you came for the Everest Base Camp trek a second time.
Yes.
And I guess you enjoyed it then, you could say, if you wanted.
Oh, absolutely loved it. You can never get enough of the Himalayas.
Yeah, it is super fun. So we'll go through the day-to-day and kind of what to expect on an Everest Base Camp trek. And Sue will be interested to hear from your side as to a guest perspective, what you thought along the way. So where is Nepal for us? Way over here in Asia between China and India. Most flights are going to fly From the West Coast through LA, San Francisco, Seattle, even Portland, over to Asia, then connect and then go right into Kathmandu. Some as well fly from the East Coast in the opposite direction. So there's many options to get to Kathmandu. We do have a travel agent that can help book flights. And we do recommend that you don't use a third party um, flight service just so you can change tickets if you need to. Um, the Himalayas are an incredibly special place, and part of the uniqueness of them, 8 of the world's 10 highest peaks are in Nepal, and there's more than 250 mountains over 20,000 feet. So the Himalayas are the highest mountain range in the world, and it is amazing to trek amongst those giant mountains and to make our way up through the villages. The tectonic plates over there are still shifting, so that mountain range is actually still ascending. It's still growing a little bit each year, just a little bit, but it's growing a little bit each year. Um, and it's really a great spot for us. So, when is the best season to go to the Himalayas? And I know this is a question for a lot of people. We go pre and post monsoon. So we're looking at April and May for our trips, and then again in September and October and November. So we're going to avoid the summer monsoon because obviously we don't want to trek all the way there in the rain, but we also want to make sure that we have really good clear views of the high Himalayas when we trek up the valley. So the pre and post monsoon time is going to give us the best weather for views of Mount Everest and Amada Blam and Cho Oyu and the other surrounding mountains, as well better weather to trek in throughout. So we're going to land in Kathmandu. And when we do, after a couple days of travel, it's nice to settle into comfortable accommodations. We use the Yak and Yeti on the way in, and the Yak and Yeti has a really significant historical perspective. It is an old royal palace from one of the dynasties in Nepal, and they've converted it into a hotel on one side, and it's a very comfortable with a big backyard garden area, and it's a really good location for our guests to kind of venture out and to go into Tamil and some of the local areas if they want to when they first arrive and they're excited to look around. So it's a great base for us. Sue, you might recognize a couple people in this picture. I think
Oh, you.
when I was looking, this is Sue's daughter, Kelsey, and husband, Rob, over here. So this must have been your first trip.
Yes, I see Patrick up there talking to us.
Yep, Patrick was your guide on the first trip. We have a lot of great guides, Patrick being one of them, Ed and others, as well as our local team. Always, for all of our trips, we're going to assemble the guests the first morning after they've settled in and we've had our first dinner, and we'll do an orientation briefing. And that briefing is just to really help clarify what we're doing and making sure everybody's comfortable and can ask questions. We're going to be taking a 15-day trek and journey to high elevation, so it's really important that we start with good communication. And we do that. We then venture out into Kathmandu after our briefing and spend the day in Kathmandu, seeing some of the notable cultural sites, the Bagmati River, the Monkey Temple. And then by the late afternoon, we're going to enjoy a lunch together. And people can explore a little bit more on their own before dinner if they'd like to. And then what we try to do is during that day, we want to make sure that we've gotten our briefing done. And then we'll come around to everyone's room. The lower right-hand corner is one of the better layouts of gear that I've seen on someone's bed. So I wanted to put that one in there. But what we like to do is just check everybody's gear and make sure that they've gotten everything and are prepared for the trip. So they're not overpacked and they're not underpacked or missing something. Then we're going to do a welcome dinner. Upper right-hand corner is one of our larger special interest groups. So we usually are kind of going with about 10 people. We could do 8, we can do 12, but right in there is a good size number for a regular worldwide trekking trip. So the following morning, we leave early in the morning and go to the airport to fly into the valley. And we're always going to make sure that we're well prepared for our guests on this day, since we're earlier than the restaurant opens. We go quite early. We do boxed breakfast. We have coffee and tea. Our guests are going to be able to check a bag in the storage at the hotel for the things that they don't want to bring on the trek. And then we're going to pack up the duffel bags that they want on the trek, and be able to head to the airport. Sue, when you first arrived on the first trip, what were your expectations at this point? I mean, there's a lot of anticipation, I'm sure.
Oh, I was just so excited. I mean, Everest had been on my like bucket list forever, like right with Kilimanjaro. In fact, as soon as I landed, got back from Kilimanjaro, I think I immediately booked this trip with you like within the next month because I was so looking forward to it. But Kathmandu, oh my gosh, it was just I'd never really seen anything like it. All the just the craziness in the streets, and it just had such an exotic feel, and the hotel was beautiful. I do remember one thing about packing, though. I remember Patrick told me because he said my bag was a little heavy and I had to think about the yaks that were going to be carrying my bag.
Uh-huh.
So think about the yaks when you're packing.
Yeah, exactly. And, oftentimes we see people kind of overpack, especially once you get on the trip. And that's why we like to check things out. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's an amazing first couple days. We like to spend that extra time because people are quite jet lagged when they first arrive. And then if there's anybody delayed or any baggage delays, we're not stressed about that. So we want to make sure we give ourselves time, and it's fun to explore Kathmandu before we venture on. So we do then venture on. We fly in these twin otter aircrafts from the Nepal Kathmandu domestic terminal into the Khumbu. So we're going from Kathmandu. If you see my pointer here, we're heading over to the Everest region. This is about a 30-minute flight to where we get off the planes on the landing strip in Lukla at about 9,000 feet. And then from there, we start our trek. From there, everything is carried on the back of a human or the back of a pack animal. Like Sue said, the yaks, we use yaks for our trip. And there's no wheeled carts, there's no roads, there's just basically trails. And we're going to make our way from Lukla at 9,000 feet up towards Phuoc Dinh, through Monjo, Namche Bazaar, going Tea House Village to Tea House Village, right up the Khumbu Valley to this upper portion that's very close to Mount Everest, where we have our great views, and visit the base camp. I like to always thank our local teams. Gelchin Sherpa and I have been working together for since before Worldwide Trekking. He's an amazing individual, and all of our Sherpa teams are amazing guys that really are there all along the way to help out. Sue, wouldn't you say that these guys are just incredible?
Oh my gosh, they're amazing. And well, love Giljan, but love pretty much all the guys on the trek. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of the same guys on the second time too. And they take such good care of you. They explain everything. They're wonderful trail mates, keep you going up the trail. Can't say enough about all your crew.
It's really important that we have, when we have these larger groups, 10 people, and we spread out on the trail, which is the nature of things, the way we walk on the trails there, we can spread out a bit and walk at our own pace, take pictures. There's always somebody by your side, or shortly behind you, there to lend a hand if you need it. And that's super important. So, I'd say that the culture of walking up, you can see the group in the upper right. It's quite comfortable trekking. Everybody's got the appropriate gear on. I do know that some people wear baseball caps, some people have beanie hats, some people run hot, some people run cold, but you can see that everybody is just walking with a day pack on. And then what we do is we allow them, like Sue said, think of the yaks, because the yaks carry the duffel bag with all of your items. So you're not carrying much more than what you need for the day from village to village. So this is a typical yak above Namche Bazaar with the North Face duffel on each side. And we'll have a team of yaks that bring all of the gear. And all of this gear, you kind of separate yourself from it. You see it that evening at the next village. So we'll enter Sagamartha National Park on day 2. And when we go in, we're in the national park for the rest of the time. We'll cross a number of suspension bridges. Sue, what did you think about this? Were these okay? Pretty sturdy and feeling
Oh my
good?
gosh, those were amazing. I was so excited. That was probably one of my favorite things. And when I'd seen the Everest movie and saw the suspension bridges there, I knew what it looked like, but there's just, well, I'll tell you what's even more cool is when you're about to cross the suspension bridge, but you see a big yak train coming toward you.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Then you don't want to
you don't
go.
want to get to the bridge until the yaks have crossed first, but it's pretty impressive. I absolutely loved it. I love standing in the middle and taking my camera and just looking at the river down below. It's truly, to me, one of the highlights and an incredible way just to enter that whole adventure.
Yeah, so down low in the valley, we cross a number of these, maybe a half a dozen. And then we get up above the river valley, and then we're above the rivers by quite a bit. There's like one up higher in the valley, but not very much. So, this is one of the long suspension bridges coming across outside of Phuoc Ding. And then we're staying in these tea house lodges. Each day we're going to stop for lunch along the way. And this is the typical sunroom and a tea house for lunch where we all eat together, and we'll send a guy ahead to place an order for our group. Lunchtime, we usually do family style for breakfast and dinner. Usually our guests are all going to order off the menu, whatever they'd like. Oftentimes people ask me what is a tea house, and upper right is one in the lower part of the valley, a big structure made of stone, like granite blocks. And lower right is one that's a little bit higher up the valley, so maybe a little smaller. But on the lower left, you see the sleeping bag on the two bunks there. With the two bunks there, this is the typical tea house setup: a nice room that's comfortable for you to sleep in with a bunk, no sleeping pad needed. You just bring your sleeping bag and your gear, and you can lock your stuff in there and go into the tea house room. Sue, do you have anything to add about the tea houses? I mean, did these were comfortable for you, or?
Yeah, I thought they were fine. They were, some of them, as you go higher and higher up the mountain, they get a little bit more primitive.
Sure.
But then as you go higher, of course, some of the views get even more outstanding. I mean, there was a couple places that we stayed at when, like, I would open up and I'd look out the window and you just have like Ama de Blanc, like right in your face looking at it.
Amazing.
Or just incredible views. I thought the food was pretty good. You're not going to be getting hamburgers or things like that,
Uh-huh.
but they've got. I thought it was pretty decent, and I thought that the people that actually ran the tea houses were very, very lovely, and tried to make sure that they took care of all your needs. And
Yeah,
um,
mostly families in the tea houses. They're not luxury accommodations, but they're comfortable. And as Sue says, like when we get further up the valley, of course, they get more rustic, especially the very last village in Gorak Shep. Honestly, it's just our staging area to get into base camp and get up Kalapatar. Lower in the valley, there's more, I'd say, amenities like a hot shower, charging, and then that kind of thing is going to get a little bit more limited the further in we get, the further and the higher we go. So they're suitable, they work well. We are very select on the ones that we choose. Upper right, you can see they sell a bunch of little things, not much that we really need, but if somebody's dying for a Coca-Cola or a candy bar, they have that kind of thing. And Yeah, they definitely are the charm of Nepal and the Khumbu, and so much about the people. I couldn't agree more. It's really about the people and the people that run those areas. Along the way, we get to partake in a number of special blessings. You know, the Buddhism in the Khumbu is very prominent. And here you can see one of our guests getting a silk string tied around their neck with a little special blessing. We call this a Pujo ceremony, and puja is a well wish for our safe travel. So we're going to be able to participate in a couple of puja ceremonies. Sue, did we do this on your trip?
Yes, we did. We
Yeah,
did both
and it's
trips. It's a really beautiful experience.
yeah, it's really nice to experience their culture and their beliefs. I'm always taken by the way that our staff is so as well interested in it, that they really feel this in their hearts, that it's not just something like they're like, oh, that's for the guests, I'll talk outside. They very
Right.
much participate, and it's really neat thing. This is the Tangbuche Monastery. It's boy, at about 14,000 feet, and super old monastery. We come right up through here and spend the night very close by. And then this is a tea house. As Sue said, as we get further up, these tea houses get a little bit more rustic, a lot more rustic from the start. This is in Lobuche, so this is about 16,000 feet, just a couple, the second to last village on the trip. We're always going to make it as comfortable as we can. So identifying our spot in the tea house where our group comes together is important. We put tablecloths out. We'll put condiments on the table. We always travel with all of our own condiments. So we can then, guess we aren't communally sharing condiments with other travelers and things like that. So we are going to make it as comfortable as we can. These last couple of days, there's not a shower if you wanted to take a shower at the end of the whole kind of thing, but many guests don't along the way. You can see here the vegetation getting quite sparse. Sue, how did you acclimatize on your trips and in both trips?
Well, I didn't really have any issues, which was I was very grateful for. I think the key is to drink lots of water as you go, and worldwide trekking always make sure you've got. Well, you can either fill it yourself, but typically they make sure the water bottles are full with it. Right? I can't remember now, but I think you guys filled the water bottles.
Yeah, we
And
usually have everybody put them on a table and we
yeah,
use our expedition filter, but we're filling them all the time.
yeah, I would say the key is just drink. If I even started to get a little bit of a headache, I would just start chugging water. Um, the downside is then, of course, that you have to make a couple pit stops every now and then when you drink more water, but it is worth it. And if you start to get a little bit of a headache, take an Advil. A lot of people take, I believe, oh, what's the name of it? Some kind,
Diamox.
yeah, Diamox. I did not take Diamox, and I was fine, but it's just different for everybody. But you guys did such a nice job of acclimatizing it. We might stay in one area for a while. I think in Farache, we stayed a couple days and did some hikes going up and then back down. And you structure the trek in a way that I think it makes it fairly easy for most people to acclimatize.
Yeah, what we try to do is gentle acclimatization. So here's the breakdown. This is in our trip detail, but we have it very much communicate with the guests what they're going to do the next day, how far they're going to go, the elevation gain, up and down, because down is sometimes an issue as well. So we really want to help them understand what they're taking on each day. And if you look at this, 15 days, it's super important to acclimatize slowly and go at a slow pace, which is very important. Another thing, that's important to us is that we're prepared for a guest that falls sick. So we do have all of our guides are medically certified. We bring a Gamo bag on every trip with oxygen. And then we're going to do in this upper right, you can see I'm doing a medical check with the pulse oximeter. So we're monitoring our guests every day and basically filling out this medical checklist chart for every guest. So every guest has one of these. We're going to fill it out for them, take their pulse ox, their temperature, ask if they've taken their Diamox, or in Sue's case, not, if they've got any headache, how they feel in general, are they eating, sleeping, going to the bathroom normally, and we can help attend to them on an individual basis. I do agree that most of the time it's about water. It's about hydration,
Yep.
electrolytes, making sure you eat when your appetite gets sluggish at altitude. You can see here is we do a double day in Namche Bazaar, and then we do another double day in this village called Fariche. And this is a good example of the second day really necessary. This is the first big U-shaped valley. So a valley is carved by water. You can see the creek running down through it. That's the runoff from the Khumbu Glacier. The Khumbu toe of the Khumbu is glacier is right over here. And years ago, the glacier came down here, and that's why it's flat in the middle. It's carved by a glacier more so than carved out by just a river valley, like lower in the trek. And this is the village of Fariche. We do, as Sue said, do 2 days here. We go for an acclimatization hike during the day, then come back and spend a second night at the same lodge. It gives our body a chance to acclimatize and feel better. Sue, I thought that you did a helicopter ride. Did you do on one of your trips?
Yes, I did. I did on my second time on the second trip, and the helicopter ride was amazing. I mean, we literally went and we're going literally next to, like, we could see people climbing Lobuche. I mean, we were
Oh,
getting that close around it. It was absolutely spectacular. I loved it.
so this is something we add on. The Sue on her second trip was with a group, and we've done this a number of times. They're trekking along, they see helicopters, they ask if they can do a ride. Fariche is a great time to do it because we have 2 days there. Is that where you did it?
Yes, yeah, we did
Out
it
of
out of Fair.
Fariche. So from there, we're high in the valley. It's easy to go up and fly right over base camp, and Mount Everest is there. So these are little things. We use helicopters for some trips, special trips, but a lot of people do add on a helicopter ride. But soon after Fariche, we're gonna, make our way into Everest Base Camp. And after that double day in Fariche, we're going to take 2 more nights going up, and the last 2 villages. The tea house in Fariche is, comfortable for us for 2 nights, and then we go up and it's a little bit more colder, a little bit more rustic, and we put ourselves in position as we do on many mountain climbs to, on this photo, when we first get into Gorak Shep, trek to Kalapatar, 18,500 feet. The guys on the left are just starting their trek up. You can see there's no vegetation up there. I always think when there's no vegetation, life is harder, the air is thinner. And that you can see Gorak Shep down on the lower right, this little village, and the trail going up towards Kalapatar up in here. And then upper right, you see the view we see from the top of Kalapatar, and pretty spectacular, Hasu.
Yes, that was a really really neat day, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how Hillary decided how to. That's how he was able to first figure out how he wanted to climb Everest by when he was up on Kalapatar. That's kind of how he mapped out his route a little bit.
Well, you know that Hillary and Tenzing were the first guys to actually climb Kalapatar. Probably other Sherpa guys did over the years, but on that expedition, and they scouted, because from here you can see the base camp down here on the corner of the glacier. You can see a little bit more into the valley. You can see the South Col at 26,000 feet, and the route up Everest goes right here to the south summit, across the Hillary Step, and to the top. So they could kind of scout some things in, and it's a spectacular view. You see Nuptse over here, and you're looking over the wall into Tibet, China on the other side. So the following day, then we come back down after we've made our way up Kalapatar. We spend the night in Gorakshep, and then we'll trek into Everest Base Camp the following morning. I do these 2 days opposite than the standard group does. And the reason that I do is for a couple of what I think are good reasons. When we climb Kalapatara in the afternoon, the sun is behind us, so the mountain is lit up and better for photographs. And when we trek into Everest Base Camp in the morning, we're generally there with not very many, if any, people. Did you think that, Sue? We
Oh,
had pretty good.
absolutely. In fact, I think there might have only been a couple other people when both of the times that I trekked into the camp.
And we really try to think about the flow of any other groups and try to put our groups into base camp when they can enjoy it by themselves. And there you are at base camp, Sue. Any thoughts there? I mean, that's a long way and 10 days of trekking to get there.
Oh, it was amazing. But it wasn't. I mean, it was great to get there, but it was the entire trek. I mean, every single day you would see something new, and for me, it was just the entire experience. So yes, it was very cool to get there, but it was and to be where all these people like you that have climbed Everest were had their base camp. But it was also it was a highlight, but there were so many highlights along the way that I can't say that that was the ultimate goal. It was a goal for certain, and it was a great place to go to, and I absolutely loved it. But I can't say that there weren't every other little place that we would stop was not just as spectacular.
I really appreciate that. And the fact that with many of my groups, I talk about enjoying the journey. And it's great to have that goal and that destination because that helps you see the entire journey through and back. But I couldn't agree more. It's really about the whole experience. It's every day. It's about the things you don't expect along the way. It really is great. And of course, making it there is a nice thing. And then making our way back out. After we make our way into base camp, of course, we take 5 days to trek back out on the same path that we trekked in. We don't do the double days, so that's why it's shorter. And we also are able to move quicker going downhill in general. So it's a 5 day trek back out. The last night we stay in kind of a special tea house that's right in Lukla, close to the airport. And then the next day, early in the morning, we fly out, usually on a flight around 6:30 before the clouds come up, and make any kind of weather delays with the flights. And then we head down. Were you excited at this part? Everybody talks about the Lukla flight and the
Oh
Lukla.
my gosh, just going in and out is amazing because they say it's the world's most dangerous airport, and yeah, when you get in that plane, that's the runway. If you don't, that's the end of the runway right there. And the other way, when you land, there's nothing but a big giant stone wall. So that's quite an experience.
Yeah, it's sloping downhill. It's quite exciting. And we're about 30 minutes back to Kathmandu. And when we come back out, we don't stay at the Yakanyeti. We switch hotels to the Hyatt. All your bags are transferred and waiting for you that you've had in storage at the Yakanyeti when you arrive. They're gracious to give us early check-ins a lot of the times, and it's really a comfortable hotel. It's a little bit closer to the airport for when people depart, and it's also close to another site that we hadn't had a chance to see prior to the trek. So the Hyatt's a great spot for us to land. Great spa. We usually do some shopping. A lot of the times we get to the Hyatt and we're there at around 9:30 in the morning, so guests are just happy to go into the lobby and relax and maybe hook on the Wi-Fi and that kind of thing. But we're close to this is one of the largest stupas in Nepal, and over there it's called Boudina, and it's just out the back gate of the Hyatt. So guests can go explore, and some of this exploration in Kathmandu when we return, I always think that we've been on such a strict kind of get up, everybody eat breakfast at this time. And, we're so scheduled during our trek a lot of the times that it's nice for people that want to go buy something in Kathmandu, and they kind of can go venture off and find that, or go explore Bodhana and check things out on their own. And they could do whatever they'd like. We have that whole day. And then usually they're free for lunch that day, and people kind of go together, or might venture out on their own. And then we make our way back at the end. So Training wise, Sue, is this something that you think about when you're going? Because you've done a lot of different trips with us training. And do you go into a training regime? What do you do?
Well, for me personally, well, I'm a runner and I work out, so I really didn't do that much different than what I normally did. But if you weren't somebody who did that, I would say it is very important to do a lot of walking, maybe to practice, doing stairs, get on a stairmaster. In Indiana, it's very flat, so we don't really have good opportunities close by to do a lot of that type of thing.
I think
Um,
I think a good thing to do too is to wear your hiking boots and maybe wear a little backpack when you're doing your walks.
yeah,
Just clothes that you're going to wear on the trip. Making sure you're super comfortable with your trekking pants. Sounds
yeah.
funny. You
No,
want them to feel good. You don't want to feel like, oh, they rubbed my leg or something weird. All that stuff.
yeah.
We do have a nutrition and a training plan. We do have a trainer that can consult you virtually, and you can go through the training plan. That's another idea that we've come up with to help people prepare. Of course, we're always going to provide our trip detail. It has all the information that you need on the day to day accommodations. On this one, purchasing your visa, which you do when you arrive, and everything else, as well as like you're saying, the packing list. And we've taken a lot of time to put the packing list together. So if you really just get the items on the packing list, you should be good to go, no matter what the weather gives us and what situation we're in. I do have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel, and all along the way for the trek to base camp, stuff from the studio where we're going through the gear list, and it helps you see a little bit of each day. Um, and then for us at the end, we're going to do a nice celebration dinner. We like to do our celebration and our welcome dinners privately so our guests can get to know each other and, also reflect on their experience in Nepal and on the trip. And once again, for me, I mean, I can't say how much I appreciate all of my teams around the world and our guys in Kathmandu and in the Khumbu and in Nepal. These are some of my dearest friends, and I look forward to getting back to see them. We are not doing our spring trip this year, which was scheduled for May, but we're going to let things settle down a little bit more with the pandemic. We're going to push towards the fall and hope that we're feeling comfortable to travel over there in September or October. So if you are interested, go to our website, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to answer questions. And we can start planning for the fall season, post monsoon. Super clear weather over there is the typical weather during the fall season, and really great views of the high Himalayas. So I want to, Sue, do you have anything else that you wanted to share or add or?
Well, I guess the only thing I would add is that the wonderful thing about these trips is it's not just what you're seeing and experiencing as you go, it's how you get so close to the people you're seeing and experiencing it with. I mean, some of my best friends now are people that I've met on these treks.
That's great.
And just it's truly a you get closer to people in like those 2 weeks than you might with people that you've known for a year or two. It's because you got kind of a common bond, and it's just an incredible adventure together. And there's just something, I've loved every single trip I've ever done with you. I mean, I can't even say which is my favorite because they're all so different. But I will say the Himalayas is, when you're there, the feeling that you get inside when you stand there and you see everything from a suspension bridge to the mountains to the people to the Dean knows I have a fondness for yaks. They're pretty cool. But all of it's just, it's, if you're nervous about doing it, don't be. Take a risk, go for it. It's truly, it can be a kind of a life-changing experience. I would definitely recommend it.
Well, I couldn't agree more about the people as well. The guests that we have on our trips that come back with us again and again, that I get to awesome adventures. You, Rob, Nick, Kelsey, I mean, they're like family to me, and it's really incredible how I'm so fortunate to see all these groups of strangers become close friends. Hi,
I'm coming
Rob.
back. Hi, I'm
Hey,
coming back.
Rob.
Nepal.
Okay, we look forward to it. Yeah, it's just great, and I love that it is like very close. And I want to thank you so much for coming. We're gonna take a couple questions here. It looks like we've got a couple questions. So, is it safe to walk around for Americans? Sue, I'll just let you answer that.
Oh, well, I felt
Kathmandu.
completely safe. I mean, whether I was in Kathmandu, whether I was wandering, around the villages, I never felt unsafe at all.
It says here, thank you. It says, do your groups pass by many people that are going to climb Everest? I would assume so, and that would depend on the season. If we were going up the valley in May, um, in the spring season, then the groups are up there to climb Everest. In October, there's not as many groups that are basing or climbing Everest at that time. So uh, it really depends. And I'd say that if anything is one of the minor things. Even having climbed Everest myself, I think that like Sue said about the group that you're with, the local guys that are working with you, the high Himalayas, the monasteries. There's so much cooler things than guys that climb Everest. I'll tell you that. So yeah, so great session, Dean and Sue. Let's see. It says, I hope to see you in Utah for the Mighty Five with Stanford again in October. Okay, so Stanford's coming back. Sue, you went to Stanford as well.
Oh yes, that it was a Stanford group that did that my second trek, which made it even more special.
But it wasn't one of our Stanford trips that you were on.
Well, no, it was no, it was originally, but then it ended up not being it. But there happened to be a bunch of Stanford people on that trip, so
Right. But yeah,
they
but you had not signed up for that reason. So,
no, I did not sign up for that reason.
well, please tell Rob thanks for joining in and saying hi. Say hi to Kelsey and Nick. And
I,
I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And this will go out on YouTube next Saturday. Thank you, everyone, for asking some questions and tuning in. And we hope to hear from you if you're interested in going to Everest Base Camp or any of our other trips. We're looking forward to getting back to travel, and we'll all patiently await that. And thank you, Sue, for joining us. And thank
thank
you,
you for
everybody.
inviting.
Great. Bye bye. Have a good day.
Okay, have a good one. Bye now.